So, achieving positive outcomes in a complex cybersecurity market. That's going to be the area I'm going to cover. My focus is going to be in one of ITC's core areas, our primary managed service actually, and certainly from my personal point of view, my favourite subject, MXDR. So, areas I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on what MXDR is, because all the vendors, a lot of the providers have different definitions. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that. I'm going to spend some time on the positive outcomes that you can get from a best-in-class MXDR service. And then I'm going to spend some time on the how. I'm going to talk about people, processes, and technology, and how that comes together in an MXDR service. I'm then going to conclude and give you some points of view, particularly around the M in MXDR, because a lot of the messaging today is about the managed part of MXDR, and how it's that arguably provides you with the majority of the positive outcomes. So, managed extended detection and response, that's what we're talking about today, and it's ITC's primary managed service. So as I say, every organisation has their own definition. So I thought it was an interesting little exercise, given that everybody's talking generative AI today, I'd ask ChatGPT and get it to tell me what MXDR is. And admittedly, after a couple of false starts, it came up with a definition, actually, I was quite pleased with, actually. So I thought I would share it with you today. Now, for me, MXDR is about various technologies and services, and it's the services that I'll be focusing on in a lot of today's presentation, to enhance an organization's ability to detect, respond to, and mitigate cyber threats. So I'm not going to read the rest, because I'll leave you to do that in your own time, but actually I thought it was quite a good definition and quite a strong definition. One of the points I will come back to a number of times today is the difference between MXDR, so Managed Extended Detection and Response, and XDR, so Extended Detection and Response Services. One of them focuses on technology, and one of them, the MXDR, also includes the people and the processes. And those are the areas I'm going to be talking about today. So, everybody has their own nirvana. Not the baby in the swimming pool, I might add, for those with a really long memory. But actually, your own good place from a cybersecurity perspective. So, here are some of the positive outcomes that you can get. I would obviously say specifically from ITC's managed service, but I would say more generally from a first-class MXDR service. So first of all, to get this place of peace and happiness, you need your managed service provider to be an extension of your own team. It has to be a complementary partnership. Secondly, you need to be comfortable that there are eyes on your environment, your entire digital footprint, looking for signs of threat or compromise. You cannot defend against what you can't see. Your costs need to be both predictable and well controlled. I'll coin an overused term in my opinion, but you do need to know that you're doing more with less. You have 24/7 cover with monitoring, incident management, and proactive threat detection within that service. You're also invested in a platform that covers many functions across your digital footprint and your attack surface. And your MSSP partner provides you with the technical expertise in that ecosystem so that you don't need to necessarily retain those skills in-house. And then finally, the risk of cyber compromise is recognized throughout your business, from the board all the way through to the management teams and the staff. You accept that you're likely to be breached at some point, going back to Mandeep's presentation earlier. Assume breach, assume that you've already been breached or you will be breached at some point. Okay, so to get all of those positive outcomes, it's not a technology play. It's not just a people play. It's not just a processes play. It's all three of those areas need to work together. So I'm going to focus on the how for a few minutes, walking through people, processes, and technology. Now, the importance of people in MXDR. We're focusing on the M here, the managed part, right? Because you can buy XDR services, particularly direct from vendors, where the people effectively carry a very small part in that service. If you go to an MSSP, like ITC, the people that drive that service, manage that service, play a much larger part. And as I say, been in managed services for several decades now, that is what drives a lot of the positive outcomes. So what do ITC do with our people to drive our service? So we clearly focus on the right knowledge, skills and abilities within our Security Operations Centre, within our service management teams, within our account directors teams, and all of the people that look after our customers. We continually invest in our people and their skills. That is an ongoing process and is renewed every single year. And of course, given that our services are driven by Microsoft technology, all our people are Microsoft trained and qualified. Fundamentally though, to generate the right culture and the right motivation within our teams, a managed service provider needs to be a great place to work, which is where we focus our efforts. Now, once you have that team with all the right skills, expertise, motivations, and culture, you then have to have the right collaboration with your customers. I mentioned earlier that an MSSP needs to be an extension of your own team. So what I've put up on the slides now is effectively an example of how that might work. This is around MXDR identity. Again, we discussed the importance of identity earlier in Mandeep's presentation. And I'm not going to run through this slide all the way through because Sophia will tell me to get off quickly in about 10 minutes. But what I do want you to take away from it is a couple of points. So first of all, in this idea of an incident within the SOC, ITC are carrying 6 of the actions within the 7 of this process. So most of the responsibility sits with ITC. The other point I want to bring you to your attention is effectively number 7, which is where we constantly evolve our service. So if we're seeing repeat incidents within our SOC, across one customer, but also across all of our customers, we immediately look at lessons learned and where we can look at solutions around SOAR, which is automation, orchestration and automation, so that we can both improve the posture of our customers, but also speed up response and lessen the effort all round for both ITC and the customer. Now, of course, what I've shown is against identity, but this also works against all of the other elements across your digital footprint, be those endpoint, cloud, apps, firewalls, network devices, etc., etc. Okay. Moving on to processes. You can't run a best-in-class MXDR service with that capital N, M, not an N, an M, for managed without industrialized processes. So those of you that have been involved with managed service, have experienced managed services in the past, either on the provider side or the customer side, will know that any effective managed service has to start with effective and efficient onboarding. There is always a balance between speed and time to benefit versus all of a customer's digital footprint being covered. And discovery and design are always key. So it's always an element that you can't really skip, no matter how much automation you're using within the onboarding process. A flexible approach, such as ITC's, can ensure that high-risk areas of your environment are covered in days or perhaps only a couple of weeks, with the rest of your environment onboarded afterwards. So, and there is always opportunity to automate in this place when it comes to deployment of agents and clients, etc. So it tends to work different with every customer, because it partly depends on the customer's appetite, but onboarding can be very quick today. And then when it becomes to the in-life service, now I appreciate you can't read this process and it's not there for you to read in itself. However, what I want to illustrate is that, first of all, industrialized processes are a critical component of any in-life MXDR service. And by the way, if you procure XDR services, which are technology focused, a lot of the responsibility for setting up these processes then mostly sits with the end customer. Whereas if you go to market for MXDR, this then sits with the service provider. Processes are complex, and what I'm showing in the screen is at a very, very high level, ITC's actual incident process for a suspected brute force attack. This is a single process, and ITC has many of them for all types of different attack vectors, for all types of different incident types within our managed SOC environment. Of course, the vast majority, in fact, all of our incidents are mapped against the MITRE ATT&CK framework. And then, to cover another very significant area, is that all services, all managed services evolve. The ITC MXDR service evolves and increases in capability over time. So an obvious example of that is ITC's introduction of MXDR identity over the last few weeks. A customer's digital footprint evolves over time. You buy more businesses, you divest businesses, your footprint grows. Ingestion levels peak and trough, which impacts your cost levels. ITC have a process that we call smart ingestion that aims to optimize those ingestion levels for our customers. Alert analysis, problem management, ongoing refinements, we go through that process with all of our customers every month, every day, every week, every month, as well as ensuring the ongoing feedback loops with the customer. Most of our existing customers will already be aware of our NPS scoring, monthly service reviews, and we aim for biannual innovation reviews with all of our customers as well. So, technology, final part of or major part of my presentation today. Technology does, of course, need to be cutting edge. You all know, I hope by now, given the presentations you've had today, that we are a Microsoft house. So, okay. I'm going to segue a little bit, just for a moment. So, I attended InfoSec Europe earlier this year. And what was loud and clear at that event was that despite the economic climate, cyber vendor sprawl is definitely alive and kicking. So there were I think north of 350 vendors at InfoSec this year. Out of interest, I did have a go at counting them, but kind of gave up. But I estimate around 200 of those were competing with features and functionality included in the Microsoft E5 security stack. Or, put it another way, you could argue that all of those vendors are competing for customers that don't have Microsoft E5 or the E5 security add-on. In cyber, you'll have heard before, we often talk about how we derive signals from all of the noise in a SOC. Well, I would say that actually applies in the vendor landscape today. How do you derive an ecosystem from all of that noise on that floor in InfoSec this year? And I think this is driving the current market trend, and I think it is a proven market trend, that CISOs and cyber management teams are veering towards platforms that cover multiple roles and not point solutions. And there's a reason for that over and above the cyber vendor sprawl, and that is that integration and correlation within a SOC of all that data are the keys to positive outcomes. Now that's a tough gig if you've got 20, 30, 40, 50 different tools, different data sets that all overlap. It's a really tough gig to achieve that. This diagram on the slide illustrates the ITC MXDR service, including both endpoint and identity. Now, there's a stream of signals that come into the SOC from all of the endpoints in our customers' environments. There's a stream of signals on the identity side that comes into the SOC from our customers' environment. The Fusion engine within Microsoft Sentinel, aided by the human overlay in our SOC, helps us drive the correlation of all those diverse signals. It helps us make sense of all that noise, work out where the false positives are, work out what's real, which is what we're all looking for, and actually, first of all, not get you out of bed when we don't need to, but make sure we do get you out of bed when actually something is really going on and you have been breached. And this is all even before we get to the behavior analytics engine, UABA, but that is definitely for another session and another time, because Sapphire will definitely kill me. So, in summary, MXDR is about people, process, and technology. The M, the manage part, it focuses on people and process. It's the people and process that drive the outcomes. XDR, it's very much the tech, when the slide moves, it very much drives the technology part. Okay. A final request. We are unashamedly experts in MXDR services, and specifically Microsoft-driven MXDR services. So come and talk to us. Even if you'd just like assistance building your own, come and talk to us. But if having taken this as a managed service, even has the smallest amount of interest for you, come and talk to us. And we'll show how we can add value into your environment. Thank you very much.